Shalom. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Prophetic Lifestyles with Bernard Bolton, where we are making the prophetic practical, where we are bringing the prophetic into everyday life, and where we are seeing the future now. And I pray that your future is bright and clear and that you are moving toward it even as you live in the present. So, today I'm starting a series of videos on how to hear the voice of God. We're going to be doing these over the next 6 or 7 weeks. And so, today we want to talk about how to hear the voice of God. It is essential to the prophetic lifestyle, to the prophetic life, to being a prophetic person or a prophetic people. It is essential that we know how to hear the voice of the Lord. Listen to what Jesus himself said in John 10. Now, this is about the best definition for hearing the voice of God or being prophetic. Okay, what does it mean to be prophetic? What does it mean to have a prophetic lifestyle? Well, Jesus himself says in St. John chapter 10, verses 3 and 4, he says, "And the sheep hear his voice." We are the sheep. Jesus is the shepherd. We hear his voice. Okay? We hear his voice. All right. And he calls his own sheep by name, which means by name means he has a personal relationship with them, with each one of his sheep. He knows our name. He knows who we are. He knows, he knows our personality. He knows us, and so he knows our name. One of the things that I love when I'm meeting new people, and I'm meeting new people on the job that I currently work, and I love asking people their name. And so I was talking with one of my coworkers, and I had to ask her again what was her name, but we hadn't spoken in a couple of weeks. And I explained to her. She says, "Well, I remember your name." And I said, "Well, if I have to not only know your name, I have to use your name. The more I use your name, the more it sticks in my mind." And so I'm always asking people, "Hey, what's your name? What's your name? What is your name?" Jesus knows our name. Okay. And really being prophetic just simply means having a relationship with the Lord. It's not anything abnormal, strange. Unfortunately, many believers are not prophetic, but being prophetic is just simply having a relationship with Jesus. And then Jesus says, he says, and he calls his own sheep by name and he leads them out. Okay. So uh the process of being prophetic is that we are being led out by the Lord, led into the future, led into tomorrow, because we hear his voice and we hear him calling our name. Okay, because we have all of that, he leads us and we follow him. And so, really, being prophetic means to follow the Lord as He leads us out, lead us into the pastures, the spaces. He's leading us out. He's leading us into a place far beyond where we are right now. Then in verse number 4, he continues, and when he brings out his own sheep, he goes before them. Okay, leadership, preeminence. Jesus is first, so he goes before us. He is the one directing us. So really being prophetic, just again, it's being led by the Lord. He's going before us. We can, as long as we follow him, we're on the right path. Okay. And then it says, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. The sheep follow him. And so following him because we know his voice, that's really what the prophetic lifestyle is. And knowing his voice, okay? Knowing his voice simply means that we are familiar with his sound. Because here's the thing about the voice of the Lord. The voice of the Lord is the sound of the Lord that resonates. The sound of the Lord that thunders, and sometimes it thunders, and sometimes it's a quiet, sometimes it's moving, but knowing the voice of the Lord. Okay, so how do we hear the voice of the Lord? I want to give you these two principles. It's going to be very quick. In Genesis 3:15, I believe it was 3:15. If I quoted that wrong, forgive me. But well, let me no, I think it's Genesis 3:8, 3:8. Okay, and it says there, and they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden. Okay, and so Adam and Eve, yes, it's Genesis 3:8, and so they heard the voice of the Lord walking in the garden. Now, before sin entered and defiled the garden and defiled them, God was always walking in the garden, and Adam and Eve responded to his voice. They knew his voice. They knew when the Lord was coming. The Lord was actually walking in the garden by his voice. That's how they knew that the Lord was present, by his voice. Because we know that God is not a man, God is not human. Jesus came to be human, but God is not human. God is spirit, and so they discern the movement of God around them, because the garden was their home. It was their dominion. But they invited the Lord in, and He entered in, and He walked with them. And there was this beautiful relationship: Adam, Eve, and the Lord. And of course there was the animal creations, but they were the three who was connecting in communion, and they heard God by his sound, and he walked by his sound, and he was intimate with them, and they were familiar with God. Now, the reason why many of us don't know how to hear God, and there's a lot of reasons, we'll deal with them over the next 6 weeks, but but uh, but many of us, we have this kind of intellectual approach to God, where we have to see God, we have to see Him physically, we have to see Him with our eyes, we have to feel Him, and so we try to have an experience with God through our senses instead of having an experience with God through our spirit. We are spirit, God is spirit. The only way you're going to connect with God is through your spirit. All right. So here's the two principles I want to give you as I'm getting ready to get out of here. All right. Hearing the voice of God starts with the heart. Adam and Eve had a heart for God before their heart was defiled by sin. They had a heart for God, and the heart actually is their inner being. It's the total inner man. That's what the heart is. And so and so their heart responded to that sound. There's a certain sound that causes a certain reaction in you. Hearing your child, when I talk to my son, my son lives away from me now, and so when I talk to my son, my heart responds in a certain way because I'm responding to the sound of my child. And so when your heart, okay, when you have a heart for God, your heart is going to always respond to the sound of God. Your inner being is going to respond to the sound of God. It all starts with the heart. All right. And so we have to prepare our heart, and we have to recognize that God speaks in our heart. And we have to recognize that the heart is the place of communion. Okay, because our heart is connected to our soul, is connected to our mind, it's connected to our understanding. All right, and so it starts with the heart. Number two, hearing the voice of God continues with alignment. Now, this is very important because Adam and Eve had full alignment with the Lord. And when I use the word alignment, I mean that there was an arrangement between them. There was an arrange. They were aligned to God. They were connected. There was a connection. And when you're connected, then you have a sense of the movement of a person. You sense their movement. You sense their being. Now, here's how we reach alignment. One of the ways that I walk in alignment is I state what Jesus said in the prayer he taught the apostles. Let your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. And that has been a prayer of mine for so long now. I can literally I can see it in my spirit. I can see the alignment that I have with the Father because I live in the earth, but I'm seated in heaven. And then as long as my will, okay, as long as my will is in agreement with his will, then I open the door in the earth where I live, move, and have my being. I open the door for heaven to manifest in the earth. See, we're living under an open heaven because the heavens opened when Jesus was baptized. They never closed, so the heavens are open. But in order for us to experience that, there has to be an alignment with between heaven and earth, and the alignment is there as long as we are aligned or arrange or agree with the Father. Let your will. That's my heart's cry. I've lived that since I was 17 years old. To do the will of God for me, that is the greatest expression of my love for Him. The will of God. I'm always about how can I do the will of God, even when I'm failing. I'm still fighting to do the will of God. That is the sound that I live by. Lord, what is your will? And let your will be done in earth, in me, in my life, in everything that pertains to me. Let your will be done in me as it is in heaven. And so if you have alignment with the Lord, you can hear the voice of the Lord. All right. So this is our video for the week. Thank you so much for being a part of Prophetic Lifestyles with Bernard Bolton. Hopefully, we've got a lot of things going on, but we look forward to being able to come on every Wednesday and share with you our weekly video. Please subscribe to our channel if you have not. Like the video, share it with others, and go to the description box and check out some of our resources. Shalom.